Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. This is Steve coming back with another video for the tutorial number 5 for the Commodore Very Basic. Before we start off, I just wanted to kind of go back to some of the things I was talking about in the other videos here. Wanted to show you also, these are some of the other, this whole thing is full of all my Commodore stuff, by the way. These are some of the other discs I have, and this is what I was talking about the other night. These are actually some of the many different games I actually own. If I can pull one of these out, if they have an actual tab. There's a, I think that's an old one. There's a Three Stooges. Let's see, there's a Geos. Oh, there's Kings of the Beach. Kings of the Beach. This was an eBay order I won. If you're interested in, you know, how do you say that? GOS or what? GEOS. I have that. There's a Wheel of Fortune there. Mail order monsters. I don't know if I ever got into that one. Just a lot of different ones here. And these are just filled with many different things. There's an old one you might remember, Paperclip, but it's not a game. That's just a utility. And a lot of these just have different games on it, like Contra. There's a Jack Nicklaus Golf right there. See that one? And I don't know what Mini Pad is, but that's on there. Just trying to read some of these. Monopoly. F-15 Strike Eagle. That one got erased, whatever that one was. There's just so many different ones. Caveman. There's a Sid player. It's a utility. Mr. Dew's Castle. John Elway's Quarterback. Look at that. I didn't know I had that one. And some sporting goods. I don't know what Autocom is. That's on there. There's Mario Brothers, but that one never worked. Weird color of a disc too. And of course there's winter games. So there's a lot of different games. So if you want to see some of those and any other ones, let me know. I could throw them all up. And here's the original Commodore 64. This came with the original Commodore 64. Whenever you bought one, it's the original disc. It's called the test disc and everything. How to set up your software and all that. So that's just some of the stuff I've got in here. This is all of my Lodestar stuff. All the Lodestar titles I've ever bought. Of course, I bought the complete Lodestar 2, or what they call that one for the disc, which I thought it was up here somewhere. I don't remember where I put it. But anyways, it's on PC disc there. And these are all my Lodestar issues. They go all the way back to the beginning of Lodestar to the almost to the very last days, but these I have. Make some room here. Fast load cartridges. Probably some more game. No, these are all my soft discs. This is what Lodestar was called, soft discs, before they became Lodestar. So these are some of my older soft discs before they were called Lodestar. Of course, you already know these are the fast load cartridge I have, and the Mac 65, that's for the Atari, of course. And then I have Mac 5 cartridge. That's like a speed load cartridge there. So, action cartridge, that's for the Atari though. I never parted with it, but I never used it. And I think this is more Lodestar stuff. Yeah, I had bought so many different Lodestars. I mean, there's tons of good examples in here too. Some of these are like the very first discs I ever bought. Yeah. And if you're still wondering, there's still more. I got these little things. I picked these up in a thrift store a very long time ago. Whoops, I just dropped them all on the floor. No. Ones I can reach. The other one fell too far away. This is something called Trivia Fever. I have no idea what that is, but Zap, I don't know what that is. Light Pin, Multiplan. That sounds like a Microsoft thing there. Jumpman. That's just in the first section. And the other one, gosh, I keep dropping them, is Mind Shadow. I don't know what that is, but Infidel, I think that's one of the text adventures there that they made back in the day. Perry Mason, The Case of the Mandarin Murder. Temple of Asphi, right there. And just a lot of different ones. Solar Flight, Stunt Flyer. I said there's tons and tons of games I have, so if you want to see some of those examples, let me know. I'm dropping everything. This one was interesting when I first came across it. You remember the show back in the 80s called Dallas? There was actually a game called Dallas Quest. It's like a text adventure. It's actually like a graphical adventure. It's got graphic pictures in it and stuff like that. And of course, there's just more Perry Mason in here. Something called Dragon World. I don't know what that is. Silent Service. There's not the original, but somebody copied it on there. And then this is Super Huey and Beachhead. Now, I know I played some of those. Those actually do work. And whatever else is in here. Raid Over Moscow. Starcross. Ken Ustin's Blackjack. Injured Engine. I don't know what that one is, but yeah, that's just some of the titles I have there. So I just thought I would show those to you real quick before I get started here. And a little link in here. Seems like I lost the lid here somewhere. There it is, right out here. So, got those back in there. And then down at the bottom here, these are just all my adapters. There's also an Amiga down there. You probably can't see it unless I show it to you. There's an Amiga computer down in there, and just a bunch of other, different adapters and power supplies and whatnot. So, yep, that's basically what I have in there. Now, let's get started back on this video. Thanks for the short introduction to letting me unwind there a little bit. Now we're going to take a real quick pause here. Okay, I'm back, and I just want to thank you for that therapy on that short introduction here with the video games. So just to kind of continue off on what we reviewed on the last session, since I spent a little bit of time, I'm not going to go over this in depth, but we talked about in the last video formatting a disk. We learned that about the open command. The open, and I can demonstrate here on the screen. So let me just kind of shrink myself over here a little bit. And so it was this command right here, open 15, 8, 15, like that. That opens a channel. The 15, the number at the beginning here, this is what's called, excuse me, the command channel number, according to this book right here, actually. This book is the 64 data files. It's got some pretty good information. Maybe we'll go into these later. I'd like to be able to cover some of these books, if not all of them, but that would take forever. Now, if you really want me to cover all these books, hit the like button. Okay, I'm going to take after some famous people on YouTube. If you really want to see me cover a lot of these books, go ahead and hit the like button right now. And we'll see how many likes we get for that. That way I can kind of keep a tally of what people are interested in, stuff like that. Because I'd like to be able to show you a lot of this stuff in here. There's just so many books in here. There's machine language book. And see, as I'm going through this book, the Commodore 64 User's Manual, I'm getting pretty close to the end of it. Then we could probably start on a new book. Now, I've got a few in mind, some of the easier ones to kind of keep it on an easy path for some people, and then later we could, kind of speed it up a little bit. There's some really cool stuff in here too. There's 64 sounding graphics, and I know I've showed these books before, but I'm really excited about, this adventure. So if you hit those like buttons, we'll see, if you're interested in me, covering some of these books and trying to start to put together some real serious Commodore 64 stuff. Now, of course, for me to do that is going to require this channel to get really big, because one of the reasons why I haven't spent a lot of time investing is I don't feel like I'm with everybody else. There's channels out there with 24,000 views and 50,000 views and up. You know, people up to 1 million. I don't know if I'll ever see that. But it feels like, you know, I've had this channel since 2000, what was it, like 2008 or 9 or something like that. And doesn't even have 2,000 subscribers yet. So, I mean, not complaining, but it would be nice to know if there's more people out there that would be interested in seeing some real stuff for the Commodore 64. Because I want to get that to you, and I'm just the guy to do it. I think I am. We could sit there and work on a game. The whole reason I'm doing this is to kind of take you down through the basics of writing real basic code so you can get into the really good stuff later. Now, I've had people saying they want to get into machine language and stuff like that. But in order to get into machine language, you have to understand the basics first. I mean, you didn't start with calculus. You started with addition and math and, you know, and subtraction, all that simple stuff. So let's just kind of work it through. So going back over some of the examples, like I said, the open command, the first 15, I'll just say the 15 like this. This represents the command channel number. Oops, I don't know why I got that plus after it. And then the 8 is the device number, if you're curious. That represents the drive. So if you wanted to do the cassette or something, I think you might have to set it to a 1 or something like that. I forget. But, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. It's already got the same file open because file is open. So if you close it like this, 15, it won't give you an error anymore. There it goes. Of course, now it wants to crash on me. Let's just do a reset here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do a soft reset. I haven't done a good reset. So we talked about the format command with the open command. We also talked about how to save. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Save, file name, you know, -8 or whatever, you know. And then also the verify command. We talked about that. That's just to verify whatever, you know, your file was, and to make sure, see if it exists or not. If it doesn't, you'll get an error like that anyway, because I don't have a directory set up right now for it. And there's also the delete. I won't go into that, but we talked about the delete, and we talked about the initialization. Some of the good stuff we talked about was the for next and the input loop. And of course, to demonstrate real quickly here, let me just clear the screen here a little bit. 147 clears the screen. And we'll just get this going. So the for next is just basically taking a variable after it like this, and then you just set a loop after it to count to whatever you want it to count to, and you can get it to print that many iterations. So basically you iterated from 1 to 15. Now, I didn't show that last time. I was using the 0, but you can start at 1, as you just seen. And of course you could do the step by stepping through it, and all that kind of stuff we went over. And then you could do the minus by reversing it like this, and it'll just count backward like that, by 3s, 2s, 1s, whatever you want. Excuse me, whatever floats your boat. And of course, next we talked about the input statement. Enter your name. You say hi, and you could just say after that the name and M strings. How is your day? And you could have another response or another input and say input. This time you could just put in like some regular data and A strings or whatever, and say print. Oh, I see you were doing whatever, A strings, and you just run the program. You get the numbers, and oops, we got an error message here. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong with that? Enter your name. Not sure why it gave me an error on that. There it goes. It needs a semicolon, apparently. I didn't realize it needed a semicolon when you're doing it like that, but it does need a semicolon. My name is Steve, of course. Hi, Steve. How is your day? You could also space that. I didn't space there because I thought it probably would have done it, but it didn't. So you can just put a space in here like this. Oops. Trying to get used to the keyboard here again. And how is your day? And then you can respond to it like that. Hi Steve, how is your day? I had a lot of fun doing nothing. And I'll respond to that. Oh, I see you were doing. I had a lot of fun doing nothing. So, kind of things you can do with the input statement and the for loop, of course. So now, we're going to get into some different stuff. Before we get into this, I wanted to talk about, well, I wanted to get into the other good stuff, but I guess we're going to go right into the get statement, because there's an example here. So I'm just going to erase this program. And for those who are asking, I'm going to try to get a good GitHub going soon, so I can put these programs on the GitHub for you. I didn't realize some people are having trouble typing these in and stuff like that. But let's move on to the next program here. This is, and we can, where did that come from? See, my computer's thinking I'm wanting to load stuff here. And we'll just call this one get example. You can just put an empty colon like that for a blank remark line. And then we'll just start it. Get A strings. We already know an A is a string. It's going to accept character data. And I'll just type this in. We know goTo is going to stay on that same line. And then print A's, question mark A is a print statement. It's going to print the A, and it's going to end. So this is basically what it's going to do is just wait for a key. It's not doing anything, but as soon as I press a key, it prints the letter and it ends. So whatever key I'm pressing, it's going to hit that key and it's going to end. So I kind of demonstrate what I just did here. So print A strings. Why is this keeping from wanting to load? Print A string. It's going to remember the last value you hit in memory. So there's an A, so it's an A. So that's what the get statement doing is just to remembering that last key you pressed. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I'm just going to kind of look over my example here. Oh, and then the equal sign here to kind of explain this, get A strings equals 2. You see 2 quotes there. That means don't do anything. Then go to 10. So basically it's saying if there's no key being pressed, then we're going to stay and go back to 10. So this is going to allow it to feed the entry back to the keyboard over and over again until you press the key, and then it's going to print the value to the screen there. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next program. I'm going to use my clear statement again. This time we're going to be able to accept an entry of a letter. You can already see what that letter is by that line I just typed. This is taken right out of the book. Oops. So press Q to view a message. So if you press any keys, like, oops, I just went to full screen here. If you press any keys, then it's not going to do anything. As soon as you press Q, though, it's going to say, now I can use the get statement. So basically, you just created a loop there. So what it's doing in the program here is just printing your message on the screen. And as we mentioned earlier, get A's is not doing anything, but I'll show you here. It basically incepted the letter A or Q in it there. And it's going to say if there's no key being pressed, that's what these blanks mean, that we're not putting any letter inside of there, then we're going to just go back to 20 and kind of reread the input for the keyboard again. And keep, you know, it clears the keyboard buffer over and over again until, you know, it finds a key. And then here it's saying as soon as you have pressed the Q key, so now it's saying whatever you have in this key buffer, or whatever you want to call it, is a Q. If there's a Q inside of here, then we're going to go to 60. So if this get is getting the key for a Q, then we can skip over line 50. Line 50 is basically going back to 20. So this is what's called a loop. You can see a lot of go to, go to, go to, go to. Very common with the old basic computers. It's just had a way to kind of repeat a loop back to the line. So if there's no key, we go back here to 20. So this line is going to keep executing and wait for a key to be pressed. So this line will not be executed until you press a key. That's the whole point of this. Finally, when you press that letter Q, or whatever you have assigned to here, then it's going to skip over this 20. Otherwise, the 20 is going to keep repeating the process waiting for the Q here. And then once you've skipped over the line and you press Q, you'll see it jumps over 50, so it's no longer reading 50. It's looking directly at 60 now, and it prints 25, the message 25 times. Now I can use a get statement, and then it ends. So essentially, that's a simple little program. There's also the stop statement. I can demonstrate that in this line too. We'll just change it, put stop instead of end. And we'll wait for the Q, no key being pressed, press the Q key. Now I can use a get statement, and you see this time instead of just a ready statement, it says break in line 80. So the stop is a way of breaking out of the program. The really cool thing about stop there was, and I'll show you an example here. I'll just print hi there or something like that after the stop statement, is there's a way to get right back into this program. So let's do it again. Press the Q key. It breaks out. Now if you type CONT, you'll get your message, because basically what it's doing is called the continue. CONT is short for continue. It's going to continue down to the next line. I never used it a lot, but I just wanted to demonstrate it since to be very, specific to everything that's in this book. And it also just shows you the line where it stopped at, which is line 80. So very simple stuff there. Okay, so we've got a little bit of time to go over the read statement. This one's probably going to be a little bit longer, but I'm going to type in the next example here, and then we'll go over it. Remember our calculator. This is our calculator here. Also known as a summation. Basically, it calculates it gives you a total of all the values there. This one is different though. It's going to actually give you an average. And then we're seeing some new commands here. You just saw me type a new one here. Data. And I'll go explain that here in just a minute. So let's also clear the screen again. Let's make sure I erased my program. Yeah, I did already. So we're good there. Let's list it. Okay. You can also do this as a trick. You can clear the screen and you can just type list after it to get it on the screen without the ready prompt. So now, after we clear the screen, we're going to set a variable equal to 0, the letter of T. So remember, this is just a number being assigned to T. It's kind of nonsense just to set it to 0 since it starts at 0, but let's just go with your example for now. This is if it was a repeated loop, it would be a good idea to reset the variable in case you filled it with something else, which we do down here later. And then the next line is going to read 5 values, as we saw earlier. It's going to be reading 5 values. So it's creating a loop to count from 1 to 5. Now this one's not going to be printing any data, but it's going to be doing some calculations inside of here. Now pay attention to this next line, line 30. It says read X. Now many of you are probably looking at me already. You're looking at the screen saying, where's X? I see J. I get J. J is some kind of a loop. I'm okay with that. It follows the next statement as you've explained before, and I understand now. But X, where is that at? Now look at this read. Read is going to basically be looking something. So what it means is it's actually called reading a line. It's actually reading this line down here. So if you have a read statement, it's going to be scanning through the program. It can go up and down, by the way, looking for the first available data statement. Data is just a way of taking values and storing them in. Think of it like putting values in a box. Let's say I had 5 boxes here, and each one had a different value in it. That's basically what data is going to do. It's going to say the first box is going to have a 5 in it. The second one is going to have a 12 in it. The third one is going to have a 1 in it. The next one's going to have a 34, and the last one's going to have an 18. So what that just did is it took from J to 5. There's 5 here. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each time we hit X, X is going to be equal to 5 once J is equal to 1. Once J is equal to 2, X is now equal to 12. Once J is equal to 3, X is equal to 1. Once J is equal to 4, X is equal to 34. And once j is equal to 5, x is equal to 18. And at the same time, after we're reading, the first time it goes through the loop, remember, it's only going to do it one time when we first go through it. It's now going to do a total. I've showed you this before. So t equals t plus x. Now x, you should already guess, is not going to be just 1 or 0 since we didn't assign anything to it. It's going to remember what you read in that data statement. So what it's going to be doing, it's going to be saying t equals t plus 5. The first time, we've got a total of 5. And then there's a next statement. That means go back to the 4 again, or find the most available 4. Back here again. Now j, or think of that j equals j plus 1. J is now equal to 2. And what that means is we're now in the second part of our loop. Now we're reading x. Since we're at the second iteration in the for loop, we're now going to not be reading 5 anymore. We're now going to be reading 12. So remember the first time, it's going to be having 5 as it goes through the next, back up here. And then it's now going to be reading the 12. So it's going to be adding 5 plus 12. So whatever 5 plus 12 is, which be 17. Next thing we're going to be doing is, you see here it says a equals t divided by 5. Oh, and also, by the way, this will just go all the way up through the loop, before, not to confuse you. So to be taking j equals 5 plus 12, and I'll show you in this line right here what it's actually doing. Plus 1 plus 34 plus 18. So it's getting a total of 70. So it's calculating all of these and it's storing it in the value of t. Now once we have that total of 70, of course, we're going to take and create another variable just called a, or whatever you want to call it. A is just a simple way of starting with the first letter of a variable or whatever. And we're going to be taking that total of our t, so we know it's 70, and we're going to divide it by 5. So if I go here and I print 70 divided by 5, you're going to see it's 14. So basically that's how it gets the average, by dividing by the total of the numbers. That's what an average is. And then of course it's going to print average. It's going to print our result since it's calculated off of this total. And it's going to end. So I'll run it, and you should see the answer, if I'm not mistaken, would be 14. 14. Now that we ran it, I'm going to show it to you little by little here. As much as I can show you, I'm going to print out all the variables here and show you what they look like. So you see j is now equal to 6, because what we did is we went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the next value is actually 6 in memory, even though we probably didn't get into the total here. It's just basically saying that's the end of the loop. We got our 70 because we took all of our values, as I just showed you earlier. We took 5 plus 12 plus 1 plus 34 plus 18 to get 70. And then of course a is taking the total of 70, divides it by the total of 5, which is our 14 for our result. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm actually doing some pretty good time on this. And for those who are wondering what I'm doing, this is just a sheet I'm referring to. I'm actually rewriting this in my own words. And I've got, the program examples on here and everything. And what I'm going to do, I hope to eventually, is implement this into my website so people can start really learning programming in an easier way. I guess the next thing would be the restore statement. And they basically just said put it in line 80 there as a demonstration and add this line. So what it's doing now, you see how it's just repeating over and over again there? If I didn't put this restore statement in, I'll take it out there and I'll show you. I'll get an error message. Right there. It says out of data error in 30. Basically what it's saying, I'm looking at line 30 here and I'm trying to read x. Now print x here. It's equal to 18, right? But you're going back with this loop to 10, so you're trying to go back and keep rereading this loop over and over again. But the x has already reached its limit. There's no more data remaining because you already read the 18, and it's like, okay, I can't read any more. There's no more boxes left, in other words. I can't read an empty box. You haven't given me anything to put in it yet. That's what the restore statement does, is it allows you to keep rereading over and over again. And it's very handy if you ever need to reread data statements over and over again, and you will as you get further and further into development and writing your own programs. So it looks like we have a new example here. I'm going to go ahead and enter this one in, and I'll explain this one. This one's going to show you how you can mingle and basically you can add variables into strings in a data statement here. Well, this is actually going to be strings, but you can actually, it's just going to, I'll demonstrate it here. Let me just type it in and quiet there for a moment. Oh, did I knew this? Yeah, I did. Okay. I got this wondering this habit if I'm always new in something. So I'm going to go up here and copy my 5 inch. I have to type it in again. And there's my new listing. I'm going to run it. And you see it wrote Commodore 64 computer. Now we're getting into some cool stuff. Now earlier we saw how we could store data and read data into the read statement, numbers basically, numerical data. Now what we're doing here is we're reading, if you remember the string after the $sign represents the string after the A sign to read characters. And this is going to read this whole character. So as soon as you see a read A string followed by a loop like there, it's going to instantly read all of this data before the comma. Now the comma is how they're separated the data statement. So this one, if you count the commas, actually, no, never mind that. So if you count the data in your 1, 2, 3, you've got 3 different sets of data, which is exactly what this loop is doing. It's reading through 3. So the first time j is equal to 1, and let me just do it, demonstrate it this way, which I probably should have done either. So first time j is equal to 1, A strings is going to show Commodore inside of it. The next time j is equal to 2, it's going to show 64 inside of it. The next time, oops, the next time j is equal to 3, A strings is going to show computer inside of it. So that's basically what it's doing, is it's going through each time, and it's just changing the data. So just like the numbers earlier, although we don't need a total in this example because we're not totaling, you know, characters or anything, that wouldn't make any sense. We're just getting a way of taking a set of data to use in our program. And very soon here, if I don't run out of time, we'll be talking about arrays, and I can show you some really cool examples. I wanted to try to create a quick lottery or a Powerball or something here, example, just to kind of show you. So I'm trying to talk pretty fast here. So I hope I'm not talking too fast, because I want to make sure you understand this is a very basic tutorial. So I want to make sure people break it down to as if you're in kindergarten, you know, so that you can really digest it and understand it if you haven't before already. So like we said, j equals 1, it's going to be Commodore. J is equal to 2, it's going to be 64. And remember, these are just 64. It's a character because we're reading it as a character. We're not reading it as a number. And then j is equal to 3, it's going to be computer, of course. And then that's going to print the data, just like we saw up here on the screen, in order, line by line, and then it's going to end. Okay, so we'll enter in our next example. Actually, I used number 5 in this one, so I'm going to need to create another line here for this one real quick. I like to clear the screen every time, so you'll see me doing that a lot. We're going to introduce a new command here. You just saw it, dim. And we're also going to introduce a new part to the read statement, which is called a subscripted variable. Oops, make sure I did that right. xj. So read xj is equals t plus xj. Yep, that's right. Don't want to mess it up. T divided by 5. Print average equals A. 80 end. 90 data. 5, 12, 1, 34, 18, sort of same values again. Now you can kind of see if we list it here, what it's doing on the screen here. You can see it's going to clear the screen as usual. Now we got this new command, dim x5, and you're thinking, what? What is a dim x5? Remember I talked about earlier we were going to be introducing arrays. That's exactly what we're doing now. So this is basically saying, remember earlier when I showed you the 5 boxes examples of each one having the data in it? Think of dimension doing the same way. So dimension has to be used if you're going to put in more. I think they said it's more than 6 values. I forget the exact number. But anyways, the whole idea is dimension is used if you're going to have a larger set of data to work with. So in this example, we're going to be keeping track of 5. We still got 5, so we can make it 6, 7, 10, 200, whatever. and then it's going to reserve those places inside of dimension X. If you don't use it and you have too much data, you'll get an out of out of read data error or whatever, out of data error or something. And then we're going to do a very similar example again. We're going to be reading those 5 boxes from 1 to 5. Remember earlier when we ran it, we read just A strings into the, I think that was it, A strings, and what was the other one? Let me look back here real quick. And the X, we read X earlier when we calculated the totals. So instead of doing that X totals this time, now we're going to use the X, but we're going to use the subscripted variable, which is what this is. It's a subscripted is not a way of saying it's an array. And it's going to use a pointer to determine which one of these to read. That's also what the read statement does. It serves as a pointer to read the data statements. And then, just like before, it's going to read the 5 if j is equal to 1. And it's going to read, let me just put it over here again. So if j is equal to 1, then read xj is going to be equal to 5. Look at it that way. So if j is equal to 2, then read j is going to be equal to 12, and so on. It just keeps going right through the whole loop until we're all done with the data, essentially. So I think you get the idea there. I just wanted to show it to people who need to see it. That's basically what it's doing through the loop. Now what it's also doing is it's storing these values in memory. Now you saw earlier when we read the data, it just read them once. What it does is it reads them once and then it forgets about it after that. So it won't remember what the value was before it, but it'll remember the last value once it's finished that loop. This time, however, we can use the data over and over again. Like if you were rolling a dice on the table and you wanted to keep track of the total or the average number of rolls or whatever, you could do that with an array or subscripted variables. And everything else is the same. It gets the totals, the average. So I'll just run it. It'll look very similar to the one we saw earlier. But watch this. Now earlier, if we tried to print out the values, we would only remember the last variable. But I'm going to show you that they're all still in memory by printing them to the screen here for you. And if you don't believe me, I'll change the value here to something like S, so you don't think I'm trying to trick you. I'm going to separate this with a comma to make it look a little fancy. And you'll see, oh, I've got to put the S in there. I read them into an S array, so I should have just said the X, because we're reading X and S like that. And there they are, 5, 12, 1, 34, 18. So anytime you print X1, you see 5. Let's just say if I just jump at X4, we get 34. So it's remembering where all those values are stored now as we're typing them in to the computer's memory. And you notice I'm right in immediate mode and it still remembers what the values are. So pretty cool until you clear them out. Or you rerun the program, of course. So I don't know if we need to go into all these other examples. This is kind of some of the stuff we already went over. You can also mix the data with the numbers and the characters. Just make sure to always use the right read statement. I don't really want to go into all that because I'm running out of time here. You're just probably going to try to pause this and try to create that little lottery game here. So give me just 1 second. Okay guys, I'm back. To save some time, I entered in a new program here. So this is basically a simple Powerball lottery. Now, just to be fair, this is not a fair Powerball lottery because this data, you have to get exactly correct. So if you don't know what the answers are, which are on the screen already, then you'll lose the lottery. And I'll demonstrate losing and I'll demonstrate winning. Let's just go over the program first. So we've got the clear screen, we got the remark statements, just a simple comment. It's called the Powerball lottery. And we got our data statement. This is for the lottery. Now we've got 6 data statements here. And then we've got the input statement. And it's just basically going to print the message, how much do you want to pay for the lottery ticket? LT is just a way of keeping track of the variable of how much you're going to be spending. Which actually I forgot to put the cash left over. Oh well, we'll just ignore that. Sorry, let me just relist this here. And after the message input, after you get your cash tendered, next you're going to be creating another loop like we saw earlier. We're going to create the for loop. I'm going to count from 1 to 6. And then we're going to read RS. It's just, you can call this array or the subscript variable anything you want it. Just use the 2 letters. In this case, it's going to be reading that data statement you saw earlier at the top of the program. I put it at the top so you couldn't see it there. You saw it for a minute, so if you paid attention, you could have wrote down the numbers and still win the Powerball lottery. But later, when we get into the random statement, it'll be a lot harder to win because it'll be picking up numbers and changing them every time, just like the real lottery does. So in this example, it's just real simple, just to demonstrate as we go in order through the book. So not to jump ahead, but we're going to read in 6 numbers, and we're going to read them into the scripted or the array called RS and read it in 6 times. And then next, we're going to just print a comment for enter the numbers to explain what the next line does. And then we're going to read in 6 numbers and just change the letter variable from a T to an X here. And you see it says enter the Powerball numbers you think will win. That's basically going to print the input statement. You saw it on the screen earlier 6 times, and each time it's inputting it, it's keeping track of what you're doing with those numbers. So POX is creating a variable for X equals the iteration of X. So the first time X is 1, it's going to be equal to whatever you put in there. If you put in a 2, it's going to remember a 2. POX or PO1 equals 2. And if X is equal to 2, PO2 equals whatever value you enter. So it's going to keep track of 6 numbers. And then it's going to end the loop there. And then next we're going to have a comment here, see if any of them match. Now we're going to create another loop. Now inside of this, not to get too complicated here, but now we're going to be checking to see if there's a match on any of the data that you entered. Now if you remember the condition statements from before, it's just a way of comparing apples to oranges as I showed you before, seeing which is which, basically. So it's going to say if the values that you enter each time, POX, which is what this loop is doing, is keeping track of the first value entered is it this number? Is it on the first line of that data statement, in other words? And if it is, it's a match. And that's what the R is basically is keeping track of the numbers that we created up here earlier from the data. Remember, this is just reading in the data statement. So this is saying what each input statement here that you're typing in from this one is equal to whatever is in that data in the array or the scripted variables of 6 each time. And then every time there's a match, it's going to say the print, then print is going to print the number on the screen that matches each time. So if you have a 20 in there, it's going to say 20 is a match. Now look at the next here. We've got a colon to continue this and keep it all in one line so we can get a really cool statement going on here, or multiple statements. You see FL equals 1. Now I mentioned variables before, but I haven't mentioned FL. FL is also known as a flag. You can use variables as something called a flag to indicate whether something is true or false. I don't know if I talked about that before, but if you set it to 1, it's basically the binary value of 1 equaling true. If you set it to 0, binary value 0 equals false. So on switch, off switch. Think of it that way. Light is on, light is off. And then now we're going to be creating a new array or scripted variable called MOX to keep track of your matches. So it's keeping track of every time PO is a match right here. PO from our input statement is going to store it into MO. So we're keeping track of what MO is every single time. And then this is going to keep track of 6 iterations to basically scan through 6 of your input statements. So 6 of those values that you entered at the keyboard. And then once we have a match on those, it's going to say if FL. Now if it's just saying if and it follows a variable, that means it's checking to see that FL is equal to true. So if FL is equal to 0, this line will never print. And I'll show you the first time with zeros in it, just to show you. Actually, I probably have zeros in there. Let me see. Yeah, I do have a 0 in there, so I have to make sure I change the second number. I can't get a match on it, so the second number will change. We'll do it right now. So you put 0 on the first one. The second one can be a 6, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And you see it says 0 is a match. Well, it shouldn't say 0 is a match because 0 is not actually a match because it wasn't matched in the right order. You had a match on some of the numbers. Maybe I did. Let me see. Maybe I did that wrong. Let's see. 0 was the second number. I thought I put a 1 in the second number. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You had a match on some of the numbers. So maybe my data statement is flawed here somehow. FL equals 1, it means it found a match somewhere. Trying to see here. Pause for a second. Okay guys, I'm back. I kind of got it working here a little bit better. I had to go ahead and make some changes to it. So let's see where I left off at, to be consistent here. So we're going to enter our values here. We check to see the win. We were checking to see the matches here. I think that's where we left off. So we're going to read in 6 numbers or 6 sets of data here. Basically, it's going to keep in track of 6 arrays. So as I said, it's keeping track of all the input values you enter. The 6 times you enter them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every time you press the enter key, the PO is going to be equal to that new value. And it's going to check it to see what's in the data statement. And then if it is, it's going to say it's a match. It's going to set the flag, which is equal to 1. And then now we got a new scripted array. It's going to keep a track of the MOX. It's just creating a new array with no boxes. Basically, those boxes are empty now. And it's going to store in those matches into those boxes so we can keep track of what is matching and what's not. The next one here is going to say if we got a match, then it's going to say you had a match on some of the numbers, and it should print out those numbers. And then that's what this next line is going to do. It's going to show the numbers you selected, print down the line, skip a line. Read 6 values again because there's 6 input statements and 6 set of data. And it's going to say your numbers were such. So it's going to pick out what's in each box and check it to what you type into the input statement and see if there's a match. And it's going to show you what those numbers were. And oh, actually, I'm sorry. No, this one's just going to show you the numbers that you put in the input statements. In this one, if FL is less than 1, so it's saying if the flag is equal, we could have just set FL equal to 0. It's the same thing, less than 1. It's probably just better just to say equal to 0. Just to try to not to confuse people here. So it's saying if the flag is equal to 0, basically it was never set to begin with. You never had a match on any of the numbers. So it's going to say you didn't win any money. Let me fix that today. And then this one right here is going to keep track of your totals. I forgot to put that in line 295. Let me put that real quick here. Tally up your money. So I just inserted that, tally up the money. So it's going to keep track of 6 values, so 6 loops, 6 for loops, each value 6, and it's going to keep track of running total. You remember the T equals T plus 1. The MO is doing the same thing. I just used MO for money. You could set it T equals T plus this. It's saying if MO equals MO plus MOX, not to confuse you, but I used money X earlier. So if you want to make this easier, I could just set this to T for total. It does the same thing, really. It's just keeping track of what's in the MO right here. So if I say T is greater than this, it'll tell you. Okay, so it's keeping track of your money here, and then it's keeping track of all those matches and everything. Remember the MO earlier was keeping track of our matches. And every time there's a match, it's going to calculate it and put it in here. Whether it's 0 or not, it's still going to calculate it. And then it's going to add it to the LT, which LT is how much money you were going to spend. You put that at the very beginning, how much money you want to spend. And I just put plus, so if you have $100, you might pay these extra numbers that you want. So that much more money is in your pocket. So it's kind of a cheap Powerball, but oh well. And then this one's just going to show your total winnings. It's going to print the line down here. And this one's saying if the flag is set to 0 or less than 0, I'm sorry, I put less than 0. I should say less than 1. Basically, it's saying if the flag is equal to 0, then it's going to say you are a loser today. Please try again tomorrow. It's going to end the program. But if T is greater than 0, which oops, I put this as MO again. Let me change this back to T so we don't lose track here. So T is greater than 0. Now I kind of mixed it up here, so I hope I'm not screwing this up. So if T is equal to 0, so the total of the money is greater than 0, that means we won some money because we were keeping track of our totals based on our matches. Then it's going to tell you what you won, and it's going to print a message. So let's run it. And for now, the first time, I'm just going to fail it with all 1s. Earlier it didn't work because I had some of the matching data in there. This time it'll say what your numbers were. You just entered 1, 1, 1, 1. You didn't win any money today. You are a loser today. Please try again tomorrow. And just give you a simple message. Now this time we'll go cheat and we'll look at the data statement. We see 13, 5, 9, 2, 6, 7. So if we can remember a couple of those numbers, we can actually win some money. You see what it did? Is it printed your numbers on the screen? Oh, why did it say? See, I knew I shouldn't have changed it. I changed something in here. I probably threw it off here somewhere. I'm just going to put this back to MO equals MO. I just did that as an example to show you guys that you can change it. It's all the same thing. Put it back the way it was to make it work. I got time to really go play around with it, figure out what happened here. So MO is greater than 0. That means you want some money. Let's try to win some money this time. Your numbers were, you didn't win any money today. Okay, I'm getting a little annoyed with this. I'm just going to load my other one because I know it worked earlier. I changed it to show you, then not to confuse you, but I knew I shouldn't have went and changed it. But this time we'll do it. I think it was 5. It should work this time. It shows you didn't win any money. So this one, basically, this you didn't win any money today needs to not print if you did win. So I just need to fix that. So if FL is less than 0, let's see, FL is equal to 0. I put less than 0. That's why I didn't print. So this will work like that. You're a loser again. Please try it again tomorrow. You just won some money. And making sure everything's going to work here. You just won some money. Time to spend it somewhere. That should work. So 13, 5. Put our values in again. It'll show you all the numbers that you just entered in the input statement. And it's saying you didn't win any because we didn't have any matches. That's working. Now let's put in some matches this time. It's going to show you all the numbers, and it's still not reading my data. Okay, let's double check this because I had it working earlier. Okay guys, I'm back. Excuse me for that. I had to go back and modify it a little bit. I didn't realize I had 2 different input statements, so that was my error in not calculating it correctly. So anyways, after we have the FL, that means we basically match the numbers up with the data. We're going to print you how to match and print all of those matches right here. It's going to show them on the screen. And then here it's going to say if there's no matches, so basically this line never found any matches. That's what FL less than 1 means it's equal to 0. And it's going to say you didn't win any money for today. And it's going to stop the program. I can make it end here. I just said stop. And then finally at the bottom here, switch this out. It's going to say for x equals 1 to 6, so it's going to get 6 counting loops, and it's going to create a total. We saw the t equals t plus earlier, but it's the same thing. MO is just another variable name to use. So it's going to get the total of all the money that you're going to win, basically. So it's going to keep track of all the matches, which is what MO is doing up here, remember, and then here, or up earlier in the program. And then it's going to add the LT, which is how much cash that you entered earlier. So LT could be just the A or whatever. For cash. I don't know why I put LT for lottery. I should just put cash. CA for cash makes more sense. So that's what that's going to do. And then it's going to print the total on the screen here at the bottom. But it's going to check to first of all see if you won. If you didn't win, if there's no 5 set, it's going to say you're a loser. Try again in the program. Otherwise, if MO is greater than 0, which means you've got some money that was accumulated because of the matches you found, then it's going to say you won it and show how much money you won. So let's try it again. The video is almost an hour long. Okay, so now that I separated these with extra print statements, I know there are 2 inputs and I don't confuse myself. So 13, 5, 9, I know those are matches, and it'll win some money there. So my matches are 13, 5, 9, 1, 1, 1. And it'll show all the matches on the screen. 13 is a match, 5 is a match, 9 is a match, and you had a match on some of the numbers based on the conditions. It's going to show you all the data that you entered. And at the bottom here, it's going to tell you what you won based on the calculations here. So if I go back here, it'll work if I just put in all 1s. It'll basically lose the game. Show your numbers and say you didn't win any money for today. And I could have probably just made this go down here. I put this in here, but I wanted to make this go down to 60, just so we can say that you're a loser, basically. So we'll make it lose it and make it say you're a loser. So we'll make it lose the game, and it'll say you're a loser. You didn't win any money today. You are a loser today. Please try again tomorrow. So that's all I wanted to show you. So please like and subscribe to this channel. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and everything. And yeah, we'll have to get some more videos going out real soon. Excuse me for making this video so long, but I had to get this program working. So I'm glad you guys kind of stuck with me there. So once again, talking about what we're talking about here, let me know if you want to see some of the game demonstrations. I can, probably throw them on the monitor, get the TV center working, and upload them, on the display there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed putting it together, and come up with your own stuff, like the lottery, the Powerball, anything you want. I mean, those are just really fun to play with. So thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget, the more likes we get, the more I'm going to be getting to work. So thank you for watching, and let's put the word great back in the Commodore 64 again.